Hi everyone, I am Emma Cowling and I am here today with Alison Kellom, who is part of my Authentic Tech Leaders Mentorship Program and also has been on an incredible journey over the last year or so, maybe longer, but I guess just to give a bit of background. So I first met Alison properly in February time, but she met me before that because she came along to a talk that I did about this time last year. And yeah, and when we've talked about the journey she's been on and the way that she's kind of allowed, well, just let go of what she thought that she needed and what she thought she should be doing, and seeing how things have just unfolded. It's just such an amazing, magical story to tell. So I had to get her on to talk about her journey. And that's what we'll be doing over the next half an hour or so. So welcome, Alison. Thank you for joining us.
Yay, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So the first thing I'm going to do is ask you to tell us a bit about you and your relationship with the world of tech. So how does that all come together?
Yeah, it's a unique journey for sure. I started out as a QA tester for sports video games at 2K and as just a basic game tester and worked my way up into motion capture. And then from there, learned about body and face motion capture and then worked into environment art as a junior artist, and then we all got laid off. And then I got a job at Disney and Image Movers Digital in motion capture and worked in the facial motion capture department, kind of as an in between rigging and animation. And then I've also worked at, let's see, Happy Feet 2. I was sort of a layout artist, or I guess final layout artist was the technical role, but really sort of footprints in the snow. So the effects, character effects. I've
I'm
also
just
been
going to stop you there because people know. I mean,
sure.
Happy Feet 2, you worked on Happy Feet 2. How cool is that?
Yes, totally. And a Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey, as well as Mars Needs Moms, which is sort of a little bit more obscure, as well as the NBA 2K series. So I sort of went from QA testing to motion capture to a little bit of environment art, back to motion capture, and then also like set layout, performance layout, which is sort of like scene assembly and putting the background stuff together and whatnot, and then also camera layout. It's been and then even character finaling, which is like sculpting the characters in the last little step before it hits like lighting, all the way to now being senior cinematics artist at NetherRealm Studios. And so it's been an evolution of a lot of different jobs, but each time that I've been in a department, I've been willing to learn and grow and absorb new information, which led to another opportunity. And each team that I've helped out was usually a team that needed help, and
Yeah.
I was from another discipline, and so I just learned their deal, whatever they were doing, and then jumped in and put out fires for them. And in that time, developed a repertoire of whatever, just digital art, making
Wow.
and creating. So I'm
And
a generalist in that sense.
yeah, and I guess the other bit is your background is that you are a trained artist as well. So you bring, and people may have
Yes.
seen the class that you did earlier in the year about kind of just how to draw and some really insightful tips about shading, and which was just an amazing class. So
Thank you
you're
so
a
much.
classically trained artist as well, and that kind of feeds into that. So that's, yeah, wow.
Yeah, and actually, funny enough, I even forgot. It's like, yeah, I did photogrammetry scans as well. I know my resume. I always am like always forgetting things that led to, which is really photogrammetry scans are like CG scans of people's faces. So it's like 3D, and then I go in and sculpt and clean it up. So again, it's all of my training and knowledge of realism and anatomy and all that stuff is what makes me be able to pick up these different disciplines so quickly, is my ability to observe. And so
Yeah.
that's, yeah, it's sort of I'm not just one, I guess, in the sense of like one certain thing.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say, so anyone that's watching, clearly Alison has loads of different elements to her background. If you're interested in any of it, please ask questions, whether you're watching on replay or on live. Please do
Yes.
ask questions about her journey before this as well. But let's give people a bit of an idea of the sort of things you do. So what's the favorite project that you've worked on, and what was your role in that case?
So I would have to say it would be Christmas Carol, just because it was my first feature film, like working for Disney. Like there was many life moments of sort of like I made it kind of feeling. Seeing your name in the credits on the screen in the theaters was just like, whoa. And I started out in a motion capture department, like I said, and I did facial motion capture. And so I did about 55% of all the facial performances in the entire movie went through me, in some sort of multiple passes in some ways, from like the actual data to like putting that onto the character rigs. But it was I made lifelong friends. It's that it was almost like this like summer camp, like where we like
Yeah.
would play Foursquare the like during breaks, and there was like talent show that we were about to set up before we got shut down. But there was just a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, but a lot of hard play as well. And
Mhm.
that it was just an honor to be able to work for a team like Doug Chang was our sort of studio head, in the sense that he's now working with Disney and all things Star Wars and Mandalorian, and our director was Robert Zemeckis, and so there was just layers of just gratitude and just wow. And from that, I was able to just expand my knowledge. There was model makers from Lucasfilm and ILM that I was able to then learn and help with their deadlines and learn and grow and develop friendships and networks. And so that was sort of like the big keystone of everything that built off of that. I mean, I had worked my way up from games, but that really just poof, everything opened.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of
Yeah.
my it's like,
Wow.
yay. I know
And
it's
it's and what I'm hearing, it's not just the kind of working with the people who are now known for this and the kind of the kind of the credits as well. It's the being in a team and the camaraderie that you got from being in that team and being able to learn and grow from the people around you, which that just sounds amazing.
I know
Yeah.
it was a very amazing situation, and we're obviously nothing lasts forever, and we're very sad that it was shut down, but it existed once,
Yeah.
and that's so
Yeah. Who knows? It may bubble up again at some point, but
yeah, in some fashion. No, totally.
So you talked a little bit about being a character artist. Tell us a little bit about that. Just again, giving people an idea of what's it mean. So what's the best and worst things about being a character artist?
Sure. Well, it's basically a CGI person, right? And so that could go from super photorealistic to super cartoony. And I was in more of the photorealism element coming from NBA 2K games, the NBA 2K 14 through, I want to say 18. I did photogrammetry scans and characters, even sometimes sculpting faces from scratch to look like scans to that level of fidelity. It's great in that you can see once you've done your work, you can see it alive and it's breathing and it's existing with its animation, and that's like awesome. The challenges is for me is that I was hitting a wall would be like midnight, on a Sunday, I'm sitting there and they're worrying about snapping UVs, which is sort of the texture layout, map, whatever, that like sort of where the regions go, and it's just like these tiny little noodly things where it's just like, oh, and I'm just like, I can't, like the artistry sorts to fall away and it just becomes very technical, and
Mhm.
there's just an isness. It either looks like the person or it doesn't. And I think there's no room for creativity. There's no room for my artness or my creative, you know what I mean, to
Yeah.
infuse. I can't spin it a little bit. It's just matter of fact. And I think that's great and that's awesome, but I was losing my feeling as an artist and my sense of a contribution.
Yeah.
And so that's where, for me, I was starting to kind of flounder and be like, it's not really like, this is where I'm supposed to be because I'm a character artist, I'm a portrait artist, I'm a drawer, I know anatomy and figure drawing, and I do all that stuff. So it's a logical thing. Everyone, myself included, thought that's where I should be and should go. But once I got there and I was doing it for years, it wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. So
Yeah. And that's really interesting to notice, isn't it? It's like I thought I should be there. I thought this was gonna be the pinnacle is kind of actually I'm modeling these people who are famous people, I'm guessing,
yes,
within
basketball players, very, yeah,
people that everyone knows. And
yes.
but your job is to copy them. You're creating a real version of them in kind of the 3D space and kind of trying to get their, I guess, skin texture exactly right and get their facial features exactly right. And it's really obvious if you've just put a little bit of creative flair in there, people might
It's
object to that.
yeah,
And
it stops being
yeah,
them. It's no longer them in that
yeah,
way. And so that's, when you start to get more stylized, you get more freedom. There's a little
yeah,
bit more play with you can make the nose bigger or the eyes smaller, whatever, you know what I mean? You can play with proportions and tell a story a little bit more. But when it's photorealism, it's just matter of fact, just the
yeah,
facts, and I think,
yeah,
which is fine. And for a long time, that was enough.
yeah,
And I was excited about it, but I started to desire wanting to become a director. Let's
yeah,
be honest. And that was a secret, quiet desire I had in my heart that I was too afraid to say and speak up until I realized it's silly to keep it quiet because nothing can get done unless you say something. And so I've been slowly with my own sort of being putting it out there within myself first, just like saying it quietly, like, I think I want to be a director, to like, I think I'm going to be a director. I would like to direct a film. And like, what does that mean? And so, yeah, it's sort of owning new paths. So you can achieve
Yeah.
a goal
Yeah.
and, you know, search for a goal, achieve it, accomplish it, and then say, you know what, right, now let's find a new vista. Let's find a new place to go. And now I want to find a new goal, find a new place to like launch from.
And again, that's also the interesting bit about how we think we're going to get to this particular goal, and it's going to be the most amazing thing, and we're going to be happy when we get there, and everything's just going to fall into place. And then we get there, and then we realize, actually, do you know what? Yeah, that's cool. But now there's another goal that comes through, because you don't want to. I mean, we're always, as humans, we're always learning and we're always growing. So if you were to have got there, well, what are you going to do now?
Right. And I think that's sort of, you know, it's like the Olympians that once they reach gold, it's kind of like, well, now what? I've spent my whole life trying to get to this end game, this final result. And once you get there, now what? Who am I now? What am I now? What? And unless you can redefine yourself or know that you're more than just that goal, you're going to have a tough time. Like, I know that that's like, it's so for myself, I'm always creating new goals to achieve, not even professionally, just in general, things that I'm like, oh, I really want to learn more about this, or, oh, I'd really like to, whatever, you know, like I want to, sounds silly, but randomly it's like, I want to like perfect, you know, making baguettes. Like I could do like the boule loaves, but I can't like I haven't done a baguette yet. And I'm like, I need to get on that. Like, that's something I'd like to focus on. And it's silly stuff like that. Like there's goals, you know, that we could still, and once I do baguettes, maybe I'll go to croissants. Like, I don't know.
I want to see pictures, but, the other thing is that it's, and in that's a really good example, because it's not like you need to learn to do a baguette to make yourself happy. It's just, oh, wouldn't it be cool to be able to do this? And we get told by the external world, well, when you need to set yourself a career goal to get to, and when you get there, everything will be perfect. But actually, no, we just keep on growing and evolving and finding the next thing and going. So the next thing I was going to, so what happened? What made you step back and go, I'm not sure this is quite right anymore? So what was the changing point?
And funny enough, it was about when I reached out to you, February of this year, February of this year. I was wrapping up, what was it last year? Gosh, it's all a blur. Anyway, I was doing a sculpt of a character for a project that eventually got shut down because of the whole COVID crazy. And it was middle of the night. I'm sitting there worrying about UVs on a folded thing and like on a Sunday. And I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? Why? This is not fun. I'm not having a good time. This is not worth my effort, time, stress, all this stuff. Like, I'm not getting the like return of my investment for my own self. And it's just that like I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And I think that was just that sort of like, but it was that I've been doing this my whole life, trying to get to this point. Am I now just giving up by not wanting to do this anymore, and sort of having to let go of the mantle of our idea of who we are as a person, the thing that we wear, and say, I am a character artist, or whatever that may be. And like each time I would upgrade and go up, it's like I'm wearing a new crown, and now I'm like that, you know. And I think over time it's kind of like, I don't really want. Why was that important? And so I think that was sort of me, was realizing I wasn't feeling content in what I was doing anymore. And it was not bringing the amount of effort that I was putting in. The joy in return was not balancing out. And so, and I think that was just that, like, something needs to give, something needs to change. And all through that still, I've been kind of studying and playing with other things and sort of thinking about stuff in a more cinematic realm, you know, doing storyboarding, learning and taking all these other classes outside of just character art, thinking about the bigger picture and what that meant as a director, and just as someone who's thinking about shots and scenes, and, you know, like just even like composition of a shot and all that stuff. And so it was a little bit more higher level, you know, if you know what I mean. And I was getting excited about that type of stuff. And it was like, oh, like listening to that internal voice go, what's getting all squealy and what's kind of going like, nah, whatever, man. Like, and like, what part of me, you know what I mean? And listening to that, not being like, come on, you got to get up and go and do it. And it's like, why? I'm not happy that, you know, storyboards are learning about, like, you know, cameras and all of that stuff. That's exciting. And like that, where it wasn't before. And so maybe I think sometimes we get trapped in our belief of what we were supposed to be when we were younger and say, well, I always wanted to be this thing, so I should be now, even though that was 10 years
And
ago.
I've invested all this effort into being this thing and working my way up to here. And so I've got to really make the most of all that investment. And because
That
otherwise it'd be
sunken
wasted. And
cost.
the stories that we tell ourselves about this, it's amazing, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is, yeah, that sunken cost fallacy that it's like I've spent the money, I should eat the pie that I just spent the money on. And it's like, but are you hungry? Like, do you really
Yeah.
want to eat it? No. Like,
Yeah.
and I think there's that belief that we have to do it just because we like put time and effort into it. And so it was my way of saying, I've tried so hard, and it was tough. Like, it was very, I mean, I wouldn't say it was depressed. It was just that I was just really emotionally worn out and going, this isn't
Mm.
working anymore. I'm not
Mhm.
happy. Why am I not happy? So just starting, and that was, I think, this program was what helped me to process that and really put into words emotions that I was feeling.
So I remember, like, because the program's changed a little bit now, but in the week 3 was the kind of self-care week. And I just remember you coming on and sharing, I felt like I needed a bath. So I had a bath. And it was just that kind of just allowing yourself to listen to yourself and go, do you know what? I need to look after myself a little bit better, not keeping on pushing, not
Right.
keeping on making sure. And even that little thing, and it wasn't just I should have a bath because it was, do you know what? And you came on and you were buzzing. It was like I just kind of ran myself this gorgeous bath and just enjoyed it, and I didn't let go of the guilt, and it was just this bubble that came through as a result of that was just amazing to watch.
Right. Well, it was permission for self-care, permission to just be luxuriously decadent. Then for me, that's never been permitted, and
Yeah.
for myself, and then just in the area that I was developed in and created in, and that I wasn't allowed to have that level of security and safety, and to be able to be safe enough to care for myself in that way and not feel guilty or that I'm
Yeah.
being a bad person by doing that, that I should be doing something else and more productive, whatever that means. And that me caring for myself is being productive because after I'm able to do that, I'm now even have more energy to do the things to give to others. And it's like, yeah, you hear that, you're like, put the mask on first. But
Yeah.
I get it now. Like it's real. Like it's yeah, and it just allowed me to then, I think self-assess. Once you're able to do these small little steps to sort of awaken the sort of the soul that's been sort of pushed and crushed down by all these ideas and like sort of pressures of society and ourselves, that it's sort of like cracking that open and going like, no, like let's be our true selves. And so it was definitely, it's been a process for
Yeah.
sure. It
Yeah.
hasn't been easy. I'm not saying like we like it was all easy and it's gonna be a piece of cake, just like,
Yeah.
a lot of tears, a lot of frustration, like a lot of like, what am I doing with myself? What's going on? And I think I want people to understand that too, that it's not like, oh, it was easy. And,
Yeah.
to set that up, that like, that if for them, if they're struggling, that it wouldn't, be a struggle. It's like, no, I struggled a lot through this whole process.
You struggled and you kept on turning up, and I'm gonna, so that's so what happened? So because okay, let's take the bath as an example of that was the kind of starting to let go, starting to say, do you know what, I can look after myself. But like you say, it wasn't just a kind of, oh wow, I can go and I want to be a director. You didn't suddenly start shouting about that. But so
No.
what happened next? What's this?
That's a
And
good question. I think I started being more visible. Like I
yeah.
think that was part of it. Was I started? I mean, I'd been teaching online prior to that, just because to sort of help out with people that in lockdown. I'd been teaching locally at the library to kids for drawing and stuff. And so one of the parents had reached out to me and was like, "Hey, could you help me? Like, I need just a minute. Like teach the kids some art while I'm like do something else." And that evolved into this sort of where I was then teaching through the library and then teaching with all these other people, and it created a sense of visibility and a realization that the things that I have and that I've done in my life can bring joy to others if I share it. And that the more that I'm willing to share my struggles, my challenges, my joys, my successes, the more that I can help and inspire others to possibly do the same for themselves and know that I'm not a robot. It didn't just magically happen. My career wasn't just like, oh, super easy. Like constant struggle, constant strife, constant challenge is why I've achieved this, is that I've pushed through the rejections. I've pushed through all the challenges to get to that point. And there was a lot of I worked on a project that I kind of got burned on, and someone had taken advantage of me. I was doing all this visibility, and I was like, cool, pour myself into it, pour my heart out, give everything I can. And unfortunately, this person took advantage of that and used my art in a way that was not, agreed upon. And
Yeah.
it hurt, and I had to, instead of the previous reactions would have been to sort of like lash out at them or get frustrated at them, I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to go around you, and I'm going to talk to the people that can actually do something about it. And it was that I was able to shift my energy of being a victim to being someone who was taking assertiveness and saying, no, I did some really important work, and I'm not going to be taken advantage of. And I think previously, prior to this project, I probably would not have had the self-assuredness to speak up and say and hold my ground and be like, yeah, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I can't continue. Like, where before I would have been like, oh, it's fine. And, not said something and
Yeah.
just kind of been like behind closed doors, been really upset, but not, pretended it was great, but it wasn't.
And just held a kind of big thing against this person. It's all about, it's so easy to get caught up on how dare they, and then
Yes.
not
Not realizing I
taking action
contributed to
against
it
them.
too. Yeah, I added, like, I gave them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to realize that it's about that just because they took advantage of me doesn't mean that I did something wrong either, that I shouldn't be like, oh, okay, I need to pull back. Because my first inclination was like, cool, I'm just going to step away from like the world, the internet's like,
Yeah.
I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
because it hurt, really hurt. I worked so hard on this project to have someone take that. And so I think I joke that with this new job, and most people rage quit, I rage applied. And then I was so burned by this person that I had seen some random job posting, and I just was like, and I just, without thinking, just sort of without second guessing and questioning and doubting myself, weirdly enough, I just off the cuff applied to this position. And that's how things just sort of fell all together. And it's really crazy how much, and it's funny is that I think after we had done our talk with the drawing and the demo, and I was saying how like it only takes once or something, and I think that to get a call back and whatever. Funny enough, within 4 or 5 days, I got an email from the recruiter saying we would like to talk to you and set up an interview. And so it literally was. It only takes one email. And I think it was just it's a lesson. It's a lesson for the more I stopped trying in one direction that wasn't working and just kind of opened it up to possibilities, the more other options. It's like it made space for other things to come in a way that I didn't quite understand before. If that makes sense.
And I think I want to wind back a little bit here, because what we were just starting to say is, so when you were in your previous role, you were kind of being a character artist, you were kind of getting caught up in all this stuff, and this niggle was coming through going, what if you stepped into a director role? Wouldn't that be cool? And you started taking some courses and stuff like that. But it wasn't like you stepped to, you kind of then started searching for director roles or anything like that. What happened was you stepped away and started playing with your art. You started kind of just doing some local art classes. You started, and so many little things bubbled up from there, which got you then confident enough to start putting yourself online and start doing the one that you ran in the group, and you've put other ones on there as well. So if anyone fancies a bit of inspiration, then Alison has her own YouTube channel, so go and check that out, and we'll include the links. But it's just noticing that you weren't kind of going around searching for roles going, oh, I want to be a director, but something just emerged that was
ironically, actually, what's funny is that the role that I applied for was a character artist position, and part of me was like resigning, was just like, fine, whatever, I'm just gonna go back and do that thing. And I just kind of like, and I don't know why. And I even like the resume I put, for some reason I rewrote some of it, and it was all these typos. And so my brain, after I'd applied, I went back and I was like, darn it, I totally blew it. I blew it. All right, whatever. Like, wrote it off, was like, yeah, that's gonna be a rejection. Like, I have like a folder in my email of all rejections. I was like, yeah, that's gonna be a future rejected email, if they even respond. And I realized that they didn't even care. They just looked at my resume. I don't think they even read it, honestly. I don't even think they did it. They looked at my resume, my reel, my demo reel, my website, my IMDb page. they were looking at other things that prove that what I do, and they didn't
Yeah.
care if I spelled like, observation wrong or whatever. They didn't give, like, it wasn't about that. But what was interesting is this specifically, it was a returnship. And this was something that was sort of new in that it was for caregivers that were in a workforce that are now out and then wanting to come back in. And so it was this sort of like different, they were looking at people that were outside of the norm. And so when the recruiter saw that I had applied to a character artist position, weirdly enough, I'm sure in their algorithms of like AI filtering on my resume, they were like, you fit all these other criteria instead. And she was like, don't be mad, but I actually shopped you around to some other people. And this is the position that kind of got picked up and that they're curious about. And I was like, funny you should say that it was cinematic artist. I was like, because I've been kind of in that world, and my most recent stuff, I was just like, that's kind of perfect. Like,
Yeah.
she was like, I'm sorry I didn't, consider, because, that it was supposed to be character artist, and I kind of put you in this other one. And I'm like, thank you. It's like, that was wonderful. So you never know. Like, I feel like it's just a sort of like, you have to go with that flow. Like, and in that, so they have, you have to write a sort of a cover letter or something to this Path Forward organization that's part of this sort of returnship program that they deal with other companies to help the sort of onboard and prep, and like, it's a fixed 15-week sort of course or program that then ideally we would then get picked up full time. So I'm still technically in the returnship, but I will be given, like, as long as everything's cool and I don't, it's waiting for me. But that basically, that I like rage applied in that letter, and I was like, yeah, this program's me, basically. Like, I've been in the industry a long time. I was out because of taking care of my son, moved across the country with my family, took care of all of that stuff, and removed myself in a way from all my work network in California. Out here in Massachusetts, it was like a desert. There was very few production companies and pre-COVID that would even consider me. And so it was like I had no opportunities. And so weirdly enough, it was COVID that allowed me the opportunity to apply to a job that's the company's in Chicago and I'm in Massachusetts. Like, what?
Yeah.
So that level of opportunity, and it's just that I was just like, I didn't second guess it. I was just like, yeah, that's me. I am that program. Like, I'm totally like, you know what I mean?
And
I need help.
You let yourself out. That's the thing that I'm hearing, is that you let yourself show. You weren't thinking, oh, what boxes do I need to tick? And I know, so when we give advice for applying for jobs, it's kind of like, make sure you know what they're looking for. But at the same time, if you can show up and do it as telling your story and showing, okay, this is me, then the power that comes from that is even stronger. And clearly you tick the boxes of what they were looking for, but you weren't thinking about that. You were just letting it go. And they saw something more in you, which made them go, oh my God, she would just fit here. And this is kind of unfolded over several months, hasn't it? It's not just been an immediate thing. So
I applied in like July. I think like 4th of July. Like, literally, I had just gotten burned, and it was like the end of June, and I was super mad, and I just was just like, I just happened to see it, and I, like, off the cuff, it was like literally like I was in the middle of doing something, and I just sat down real quick, and I saw it, and I was just like, all right, banged it out in like 10 minutes and just forgot about it. And like, and I was like, I don't even, like, I forgot about it until later. I was like, oh, that resume had a lot of spelling errors on it. And I looked at it and I was like, yep, totally screwed that one up. Cool. All right, just gonna, so I like wrote it off. I was just like, keep on trucking. We're just gonna do my thing. Like, didn't even worry about it. And so I feel like that is a metaphor for the stuff that, like, the things that you don't realize will be opportunities sometimes come in unique ways. And ironically, interestingly, it was again, referring back to that, the workshop that we did together, me demoing and talking and whatnot. That's sort of what I suspect is what sealed it for my supervisor. It was like a pre-interview interview. He got to know me as a human being and as a person, and like this sort of You know what I mean?
But to see what you were like in, as a
Yeah,
demonstrator, but what would it be like working with you? Because,
right.
yeah, and you were
And I,
showing up to that as you were, as you, and it was very clear about that. So,
and
yeah.
even just even what we were talking about, the ideas about, just all of just what it means to be, like just all the layers of sort of emotionality when it comes to creating, just putting yourself out there, being authentic,
Mm.
really deep stuff, right? And like not
Mm.
stuff that you would really cover in an interview, but
Yeah.
I feel like stuff that was what sealed, like when he saw that, I feel like that was what he was like, okay, this is someone who's different. This is
Yeah.
someone who's has a variety of assets that can contribute to this team beyond just the job description. And I think that that is something that I'm realizing too, that for people that when you apply to a job, having that, like I just had it on my website. So I put that link on my website as like a little thing. So when he went on my front page, so the moment you go to my website, it's right there and you can just click on it. And that accessibility of me is
Yeah.
what got me that job,
Yeah.
really, at the end of
Yeah.
the day. They were able to learn about me before they even met me. And that was like, oh, I didn't even like
And that's
realize.
contrasting because going with, we've gone completely, I'm going to skip a
I know,
couple of the
right? I know
questions
our
I
quick
planned actually,
questions.
but I think we're covering most things here.
Questions like, what about me?
But that thing that when you got burned by someone taking your stuff because you put your stuff out there, and so someone had been able to take it and use it, but at the same time you put yourself out there and you showed and someone has taken you and gone,
Right.
oh, I know where you can fit. So it's that kind of, yeah, we do get burned, but also sometimes the thing that comes up is just like, it allows us people to see who we are, and the chances are that that will go above and beyond the people that are going to kind of pass our stuff off for their own, because
Right.
that person that took your stuff, when they get asked to do it again, they're going to get found out, or they will get found out eventually. And
Yes.
even if they don't, they're still putting on this mask. They're not joyful, they're not enjoying life, they're kind of going and pretending to be someone they're not. And I mean, yeah,
Right.
I mean,
And that was, and I think for me, it was that channeling that energy of frustration and anger and just sort of hurt. And
mm,
instead of the old path of like channeling it towards the person, I like packaged that anger and put it to work for me. And that
yeah,
was that sort of that rage applying, which is like, what? Who does that? Who's like, I'm angry, I'm gonna apply to this job. Like most people are like, I'm out, like screw this place. Like, and I think that it's just, it shows in a weird way. It was like I was just shooting from the hip. I wasn't second guessing myself. I wasn't questioning if I was good enough. I wasn't worrying about what I look like or what the people thought of me. I was just like, here.
yeah,
I just like threw it. And I think that sometimes, if we could do that more often in our lives, I think, and less sort of gatekeeping and being like, nope, 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 like hold it
yeah,
up, like hold it in. And I think I'm realizing that the more I share, again, like we say, is that the more I'm able to share and contribute to sort of the community, that I know I'm not alone in my feelings and fears and struggles and stripes, and that if I can give hope to at least just one other person, then it was worth it to
yeah,
sort of put myself out there and sort of,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
So I'm going to skip a couple of questions because I think we've
Yeah,
been talking about what you've learned and all the opportunities. But
totally.
so, how has the mentorship program helped you over this period?
I mean, immense. I can't even put into words. Like it is what's created this whole, I think it gave me the foundation to step out into with sort of knowing that there is ground underneath my feet. That sort of like leap of faith experience, but knowing that there's a platform below, that even if I fall on my face, it's not gonna like be the end of the world. I can get back up and keep going again. And I think there was a support obviously from you, Emma, but also from the group itself, the other people in the group, the hearing other people's challenges, hearing other people's successes, what people are worried about, what people are not worried about, just the layers of realizing that we're all sort of in it together, that we all have a very similar experiences. I think that it was just the supportive network of just knowing that I'm not alone in
Mm,
whatever struggles I may be feeling, or successes, right? And being able to share those and be supported in a way. I think that, and just also just I think the guide as well of just the project itself or the program itself of like how to start out with like the self-care, and it's sort of this like process of like internal and reflection, self-reflection, and saying what is important to me, what isn't important to me, what am I willing to give up? What am I not willing to give up? And just being able to make decisions based on that, as opposed to based on what people think we should be doing, based on what our expectations of ourselves or what others have upon us in society and whatever. And so for that, it's like I ironically would never have applied to this position if I had known what it was, because the company was not listed in the thing. It just said Warner Brother Games character artist. Okay, I'll do that, whatever. Had no clue that it was NetherRealm. Would have immediately eliminated myself from it because I thought that they wouldn't want me, because they wouldn't want a woman in a role like that. I preemptively prejudged myself, and ironically, I would have eliminated a really amazing opportunity. And so we have to even be conscious of our own thoughts of ourselves in society and what we're capable of and what society sees in us. That sometimes, and that's a realizing for me, is I'm still kind of going like, oh, looking around and realizing this.
What else am I doing?
Right. What are the preconceived notions do I have about myself and the world that I'm applying to my behaviors of how I respond to those things, that I'm holding myself back in ways and that I shouldn't be. I shouldn't have, and that I allow society and the patriarchy, or whatever you want to say, to define my experience and say, no, a woman isn't supposed to be a director. A woman shouldn't make video games, fighting video games, all of that stuff. Like, that's not true. That's ridiculous. And then
you're the one putting the barrier in the way, because actually they did want you. And it's like seeing the fact that we're in the world and we've decided that these are the barriers, and then suddenly, oh, that's not really a barrier to them. But we think we're making assumptions about what they think about us.
Right. And that maybe
everyone else has told us about us.
Totally. That being a woman, I thought, would be a detriment. And for them, that's actually a bonus, because that's giving them a different perspective that maybe not be given in a traditional, someone who normally would have had that role. And so it's just being able to be flexible enough to realize that what we think of ourselves may not be, that oftentimes we're the worst, harshest critic of ourselves, that what other people think of us are way kinder and nicer and more supportive than we realize. That people see a lot more in us than we see in ourselves. And I think that's been my biggest takeaway too, is the realization of I'm having to be reminded by others how much I've accomplished in my life, because you can so easily get one track mind. Okay, like, I just got to get this file done. Okay, I just got to get this thing out the door. And it isn't until you stop and look up, put your head up and look around and go look back and go, oh, wow. And have someone ask you, what have you done? To the point where I'm like, I forgot. I also did this. And oh, yeah, I also did this. And it's sort of like, oh, right. I'm only 41 and I've done a lot.
Climbing up a ladder or a mountain, climbing up a mountain I love that, because I do it so much. But you you have to, sometimes you just have to put your head down and go up, because you're just so tired and you just like, I'm just one foot in front of the other. And then suddenly you turn around and go, oh my God, look at that view. Whoa, how did I get up
here? Right. And I think that I have been traditionally not been capable of stopping and smelling the roses and taking a look at what I've done. I'm sort of more trained to just like head down, nose to the grindstone, get it done, keep going, push, push, push. To my own detriment, right? Like, that's not, I think that I'm learning that I need to sort of realize, to put some feathers in my cap, to realize, yes, I've accomplished a lot. Like, that's hard for me. It's a struggle. It's definitely, and I know that sounds strange, but it is. It's a struggle for me to.
I don't think it is. I think a lot of us struggle with that. I think that's the thing that we do. And I don't know that I was going to say, is that a female thing? I think we put ourselves down in a different way, but I think guys do it too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we're told not to celebrate. We're told to keep it within ourselves and all these sorts of things. But actually, celebrating what we've done gives us that new energy, and it allows us to go as well. When we step up and look around, we can go, oh, that's cool, but I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want that mountain. I want that one over there. That's even better. Oh, if I can do this, then look what else I can do. And it just opens it up in that, just amazing.
It's still unfolding for me. It's not like, cool, I'm done. Like, I got it. I figured it out. Like, it is still unfolding. I'm still like, wait a second, is this real? Like, I'm still like, sort of, there's still that disbelief of like, at any point the rug's going to be pulled out from under me, or the other shoe's going to drop, of like, oh, just kidding. Like, each phase within the like interview process. I was like, I didn't get the job. And then they like call me back and I'm like, what? Like, why do you want to talk to me still? Like each time I'm just like, are you sure? Like I'm trying to talk them out of getting me or something. Like as though I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I think it is that realization that we contribute more to a group than I think we give ourselves credit for. And beyond just the deliverables, whatever that means, more than just like submitting files and stuff, and that there's layers of contribution to the team that I'm realizing go beyond just the day to day, whatever. And I think it's been amazing. The team has been so warm and welcoming to me. And just in general, it's a dream I never even allowed myself to have, if that makes sense. So it's not even a dream come true because I wouldn't even allow myself to have had that dream. But it's like, yeah, it's unreal. It's really what it is. I'm just so excited because I'm learning so much. I feel like, how do I describe this? It's as though when I wasn't working full time, I wasn't being fully challenged. Like I love being a mom and I love my son and I love all that stuff and it's great, but I can't be a full time parent day in and day out. That's not enough for me. I would lose my mind if I was only doing that. I can't. I spent, I became a mom at 36. I had a whole career before that and a whole lifestyle, and I worked so hard to get that, to then put it all down and be like, yeah, now I'm just a mom now. That wasn't enough. And so it was like I was a caged tiger for a while. Like I'm just like, I must hunt. I need to get out there and I need to like be free and learn and grow and just push my boundaries of what I understand and absorb more knowledge. And I think I was actively doing that by creating my show and by doing, teaching and doing all these things. I was creating things to keep me sort of entertained. So it's sort of like a house cat, but I needed more. I was starting to chomp at the bit and be like, I'm getting a little restless. I need more challenge.
In this as well about timing though, isn't there? And we've talked about this a little bit as well. It's just amazing how that stuff shows up when we're ready. So you had that time being a full-time mom where you started channeling your creativity, you started kind of putting yourself out there and you started kind of just being you. And as a result of that, stuff started emerging. And I think you were saying earlier, well, actually now is the time when it feels like your son's ready for you not to be there full time. Right. So if it had come earlier, if it had come just a couple of months ago, you might not have been quite there. And it's just amazing how things, and I guess it's that kind of, if you go back 2 months, you were still, we have this habit of projecting forwards and going, well, I need to figure it out now in order that when it comes to this date, it's there ready for me. But sometimes we've just got to let go and trust that we just need to keep on showing up. And then something appears, which is aligned. And this is the magic bit of this bit, is kind of magical.
Right. Well, and it's that willingness that's all that internal work of my self-assuredness, my own sort of, the self-care, all that stuff, to be able to, with confidence, step forward into that new opportunity. Because I could have easily shrunk back and been like, never mind, I'm okay. Yeah. But to be able, with confidence, step forward and say, I would like to try this. That sounds interesting. Let's try it. Let's go. And I think that's, it took that time from with, for my son to be old enough. He's 5 now, so I don't have to be there day to day. I don't have to feed him by hand every single meal and there's just levels of independence now that he has that gives me more independence. And so it allows, there's just the timing. 2 years ago, it would have been virtually impossible. I was like potty training, there's just no way. It's just, and so it's just the timing of things. It's that it comes when almost like when you're ready for these opportunities, and it's like there's sort of this convergence of things of and it's like I almost imagine them as like sort of windows of opportunity that kind of come and go, and you either have a moment to be able to jump through that window or it'll pass and maybe another window will come through, and it just really depends on where you're at and being able to do I want to jump through that window or not? Is that even an opportunity? Is it something that I'm willing to launch off of? And it's taken me a lot of time to really process, what does it mean to be successful? What does it mean to have value? Is having a job, does that give me self-worth, or do I have self-worth whether or not I have a job, right? And if the job that I have, whether it's a stay-at-home mom or senior cinematics artist, am I still valuable at the same value regardless of my title, right? And what does that mean? Because I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves of you're just a stay-at-home mom, you're just a housewife. Like that whole just a housewife, like makes me just want to like set myself on fire. I'm just like, ah! Like, no, I'm not just a housewife. Thank you very much. I'm actually a house manager. I manage the household. Like,
and then there's all the other things that you kind of get drawn into doing as well. And it's very rarely just, but it is.
yes.
Yeah.
And even then, like,
I mean, I've got friends who are just looking after the kids, and the amount of creativity that they have around how they get their kids engaged, but not just that, what they do for themselves as well. And the stuff that they're putting into the world just doesn't get recognized. It's never a just. And
no.
I completely believe that as humans, we never really just sit on the sofa and watch Netflix. I mean, there's always something else kind of bubbling up through. We've just got to let it happen. I'm gonna move on, because like, so what advice would you give anyone who's struggling to show themselves in their work? Because that's kind of what we're talking about. But
right, don't be afraid. It's scary. It's scary to put yourself out there. As someone who's literally recorded a TV show of my whole body drawing on camera, multiple cameras, with a lot of body issues growing up, like, trust me when I say it's scary to put yourself out there, literally and figuratively. But if I can help one person in their challenges, it's worth it. I think that if we can reframe our fears and realize, why are we really afraid? Is it because people are going to judge us? And if that's the reason that why we're not doing the thing we're doing, then that shouldn't be the reason why we're not doing what we're doing. Like, that's not enough. That should not be enough to halt you and your passion and your drive. And that was for me, any of those sort of barriers of like life, of like, oh, I shouldn't put myself out there because people are going to think I'm fat or ugly or stupid or whatever, these terrible thoughts that we put in our brains, that we think ourselves first before anybody out on the internet would. That as long as I can kind of keep those quiet and say, you know what, they don't care. It doesn't matter. Yeah. The people that really want to know what's happening and what I am and about and all that stuff, they're not going to be looking at that. That isn't important. That stuff is not important. And I think we get hung up on the wrong things. And so if we could be willing to let go of our fear of judgment of others and really just say, this is me, and I'm amazing in what I do and who I am, and I'm doing the best I can. This is me right now in this moment, the best that I can be, the best person I can be, and I'm trying. And I think that's enough. Like, people feel like they're not enough all the time. You're not enough. You're not smart enough. You're not blah, blah, blah. You're not whatever. And I think that it's that enoughness, that feeling of like, you are okay right now as you are. And that it's really just about, do you want to do it because it makes you happy? Are you doing this to bring yourself joy, or are you doing it because you feel like you have to do it because others will think you of something other, you know what I mean? That if you don't do it, you're going to think less of you. And so I try to take the what people think part of the equation out and say, I don't care what people think of me. Not in the bad way. It's just in the, I'm not going to let that drive my decision making anymore, because I let it for so long. And so I really want people to just, have faith in themselves, believe that they are capable. I think that's, that was something that you really taught in this program, was that we don't have to change anything about yourself to be amazing. You already are inherently amazing within your own being. You existing and breathing and is amazing, and that's enough. And that whatever else you want to do to give to the world will be appreciated and loved. And I think we're conditioned to believe otherwise, right? That whatever you give isn't enough. And I'm letting go of those ideas, as I'm having to it's being confronted constantly. I'm being told, nope, not only are you enough, but you're going to be a senior cinematics artist. And I'm just like, what? Like, why? But I'm like, oh, right. Okay, right. And then, they get the training and I'm like, oh, I've done all that before. And it's like, oh, okay. So I think we quickly, immediately discount. We're the first ones to shut ourselves down. And I'm learning that if I can stop, the more I stop doing that, the more opportunities for just great things are going to happen. That things that you wouldn't even have imagined can happen. Like, I could not have even fathomed this like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, that this would have happened. This is insane. This is not this is not on the
happen next. That's the thing,
right? Where will this lead?
I mean, we haven't mentioned, and we haven't got time to go into this, but you also have a TV program launching kind of alongside this. So who knows who's going to see that? And you've been working on a film in the background, and who knows what's going to happen there? So there's all these like threads that are just out there, as well as your artwork, as well as and you can't really see in the background, but some amazing kind of tomatoes there. That kind of, people are getting to see you because of all this stuff that you've just been showing up. Yeah. And yeah, there's the job, but who knows what else? And yeah, I'm waiting for the time when I go into my local sculpture park and see your sculpture there, because I know that's something else you.
That's exactly right. Oh my gosh, life dream right there. That one, oh my gosh, I would love to be able to do a monument as crazy as, like, oh my gosh, I know. And how can I accomplish that goal unless I actually say something? Unless I tell people I would like to do this. Like, it's like, unless you verbalize it first to yourself and get used to the sound of that, your own voice saying that statement, it takes practice. And I think that's part of it too. It's not going to be just like one day you're just going to wake up and be like, I know what I'm going to do with my life. It's like, it takes a lot of practice to get comfortable with the idea of something different, you know. And I think, yeah, just it's beautiful.
Starting with the, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this? And then and it like takes away the am I enough? But actually, wouldn't it be cool if, and that starts that kind of things start to happen, because if I was doing this, then maybe I'd try that, and maybe I need to learn a bit about this, and you just start to pick up the skills, put the feet down, walk a little way up the mountain, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I could do this now. Oh look, I've just met someone who's asked me. Yeah.
Yes. And you kind of, and you go with that, and it's that a willingness to sort of be like, I don't know what's good, like, as like letting it unfold before you, instead of always trying to like grab the wheel and be like, no, it's got to go this way. Like, it's like letting it just kind of happen. And we can make choices about like, oh, I'd like to go in this direction, or oh, I'd like to learn about this. But I think it's just that openness of like, anything's possible, you know. So I definitely hope that those that are struggling, you know, as you see what advice, that it's like to be more forgiving of your own mistakes, be kinder to yourself. Don't focus on all the mistakes as much as your successes, or whatever you're doing, however visibility that, you know, I like when I see the videos of myself doing my show, immediately my brain like, oh, like, look at those like imperfections, like, oh my gosh. And I'm just like, dude, stop, just look at the drawings. Like, and I have to even tell myself to stop criticizing myself. And so the more we can like stop criticizing ourselves, the more we can actually see. Like, I try to pretend, I know it sounds strange, I try to imagine myself as like my best friend myself. Like, okay, Allison, like there's like this Allison, like the best friend. And if I could treat Allison the best friend the way I would treat my best friends, then I'm going to have a better experience, right? I'm going to be kinder to her. I'm going to be more forgiving of her mistakes, of her stumbling, and be like, it's okay, honey, you're going to
celebrate her successes.
Yes, be happy for it.
And take her out for a drink of champagne or whatever.
Right, and not be like a bully or be like, oh, you could have done better, you shouldn't have done that, or you look fat in that outfit. Like, why am I, well, you would never say that to a friend. Yeah, you would never say those things to a friend. Why would you say that to yourself? And so I'm learning to be friends with myself and supporting myself as a friend in that way, so that there's that kindness that's going to exude, right? That when you're kinder to yourself, the kindness kind of easily comes out in other avenues. And so that's my thing, is I think that because we do struggle to put ourselves out there, it's really, why do we struggle? What is the struggle about that? The struggle is that we're afraid that people aren't going to like us, they're going to reject us, they're not going to love us, or whatever that means. And so I think if we could do the preemptive like acceptance first, and that takes practice, and that takes effort and constant maintenance, that then, you know what I mean, that will give us to a closer experience of less struggle, of being, you know, because it's not going to be easy, but at least, I don't know, I think you're going to be more fulfilled than if you were just quiet and didn't say anything. So
that is, we're coming to the end, and I haven't got any additional questions from the comment. But if, as I say again, anyone has any questions that have come up as we've gone through this, drop them in the comments. We will be answering them, both Alison and I. But if people want to connect with you and see your art and see the classes that you're running, how can they do that?
You can find me on Instagram as AlisonKellom.art. So I've got my YouTube channel that I think is also AlisonKellom.art. I gotta look it up, but you can look at just Google like YouTube Alison Kellom. We'll put the link in. And I've got a bunch of drawing videos up there, and you just go to my website, AlisonKellom.com, which also has links to all of those things as well. And yeah, I'd love to, anyone that wants to reach out or share their experiences or ask me about anything about my career or any of that stuff, I would love to be able to help and to
Yeah.
inspire others. So
Thank you very much. And the other thing I'd say is, so Authentic Tech Leaders Mentorship Program is currently open. Doors are open, starts again on the 27th of September. So we have a new cohort coming in at 12 people, and yeah, well, up to 12 people. We've got still some spaces left. So hopefully we'll have some new people joining us, and we'll be going through a slightly different format. 12 months, we're just going to be exploring all of these elements. And one of the big bits is about letting go, going with the flow, seeing your value, seeing your worth, which is just so powerful. And
that's so
not
hard.
getting it right. It's not about getting it right. It's just kind of noticing and going, oh, do you know what? I hadn't thought about it that way before. World opens up, walls fall down, and wow, it's just amazing.
To say that I'm in disbelief about this whole process is like, it's an understatement. I'm like, this, like, you kind of go into it going like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, I don't know. Like, I'll try, but like, I don't know. It's like, I did not see this as the end game. This is, whoa. But
Cool.
I belly flopped into it. I just dove head first, just woof, like I really poured myself into it because I was not happy. At the end of my rope, I was not feeling good. And so I think I didn't have another choice. And so I feel like the more the people that are in this program can just, the more you put into it of yourself and really listen to the program, really just sort of like let go and just try it. I swear the more you return you get. It's the trippiest thing. Like it's like I'm still kind of absorbing and sort of processing what that means, but it's
Well,
amazing.
I just, the thing I'd say is that the more I share and the more I have conversations about it as well, the more I learn. So every conversation I have with people on the program, the more I see more as well. So this is the stuff that we're exploring, the being enough, the being resilient, the state of mind stuff. It keeps on kind of unfolding and going, oh, what, really, that as well? And that's there's
Yes.
never an end to the journey. And
Well,
that's
and
not
yeah.
saying keep on kind of investing or anything like that. It's just saying life's amazing because there isn't an end. It's just keeping on noticing and keeping on getting curious and keeping on showing up. And it's just, yeah, it's
And I
been
think
amazing getting to know you.
same. Well,
and
that's what I was gonna say is that for you,
watching the journey.
your willingness to share your thing, that you're like, I'm not perfect, I'm still figuring it out. Every time that you know what I mean, you have a new insight. You're like, I had a tough weekend and I found something in that, and I'm sharing it with you now. You could have easily not even said it, been like, everything was great, I had a great weekend. The fact your transparency of your struggles is what gives us permission to have transparency with our
Yeah,
struggles, right? And so
yeah,
as you as the leader of this group, you're leading with authenticity and transparency of your struggles and challenges, and you not having good days and how you work through them teaches us that instead you could have easily just be like, I'm doing great, everything's great, it's great. If you're not
yeah,
great, that's weird. Like the
yeah,
fact that you're just like, this is something that I'm living daily and I'm struggling with too, and I'm learning. That's, it's like it's that, I don't know, there's a layer of like, okay, I'm not alone.
yeah,
She's also kind
yeah,
of had a, you know what I mean? I had a tough weekend, she had a tough weekend, good to know that I'm not off
yeah,
base or
yeah.
whatever. Like it's
I
just like
can talk
validation.
about it because she understands, and
Yes,
I
it's
do
powerful.
understand. And
Yeah.
I've been on the programs where it's like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, and I don't feel like I can speak up and say, actually, do you know what? It's not working for me. And I want everyone who's part of the program to be able to go, I don't get this. This isn't working over here. How do I deal with that? And not feel like I'm going to go, well, you should go and read this, or you should, no, just show up and let's talk about it. Let's kind of explore it and see what comes through to you. Because if you discover it, then it will help you do it the next time. And to, yeah, it's just,
It's so
I love
wonderful. Thank you
it.
so much, Emma. I really appreciate just all the work you put into this and just all of your willingness to share your vulnerability, your authenticity is what allows everyone, you create that space to allow others. And I think that's really the sort of takeaway, is that without that establishing and sort of like, here's the rules of the group, people wouldn't have that safety or space to be able to say, I'm struggling, I'm sure about who I am or what I'm doing in my life, whatever, and not be judged, right? Like I
Yeah,
think that willing, there's like, we don't get a lot of safe spaces to be able to be our true selves in that way. And so you're teaching us how to do that, and so that then we can show up in other avenues of our life with that level of authenticity. And when we do that, we are going to be rewarded. Right? Like, yeah, there may be moments like where I got burned, but there's also way more moments where things were successful than being burned. And so I think that's powerful. It's beautiful. So I'm so grateful for everything that you put into this.
Wow, thank you. And thank you for showing up and kind of getting so stuck in. And I'm going to say goodbye somehow. We've spent an hour chatting. So where's the time gone? But thank you so much, Alison, for sharing your story. And we'll be sharing the link so people can get in touch with you and the mentorship program as well. But thank you. Amazing. And we'll see everyone later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.